So, rule number 5 for using the colon: when following a colon with a complete sentence, you're going to capitalize the very first letter after the colon. So, once again, when you follow it with a complete sentence, capitalize the first letter after the colon. Yeah, I'm pretty sure about that. I know it's kind of controversial. There's a wide variety of style books out there, and they each have their own opinion about this rule. So when you go to college, you're going to find that different professors like different style books. We've been teaching the MLA because we are English teachers. But if you take a lot of science classes, you're going to have to learn APA. If you get into writing, you may have to learn the Chicago style or the AP style. So everybody has a different style, and therefore these different rule books have different sort of tiny differences in terms of punctuation. So here's my advice to all of you. Regardless of what you major in college, try to keep it simple and consistent. So unlike a full sentence after a semicolon, when you have a full sentence after a colon, just capitalize that first letter. You're not going to go wrong. So regardless of what style book your professors want you to use, you'll be safe in capitalizing after a colon if it's a full sentence. All right, I know, I like that too. It keeps it nice and easy. All right, so here's an example. Crazed fans nicknamed Apple Scruff, because their studio was called Apple Records. So Apple Scruff sometimes went to extreme lengths to meet the Beatles. A pair of these Apple Scruffs once broke into Paul's house by coming through his bathroom window using a ladder. Well, I want you to notice that after the colon, that's a full sentence. So therefore, if I can find a full sentence after a colon, I need to capitalize that first letter. So let's capitalize that. Rule number 6, the opposite then. So if you follow a colon without a full sentence, you don't capitalize it. That's what makes the colon really versatile, is you don't have to have a full sentence after the colon. It doesn't have to be at all. So, yes, I know. This again, let's talk about it. So, once again, the style books are very complicated, make it more complicated than it needs to be. So we're just going to keep it very simple. If it's not a full sentence after the colon, keep it lowercase. All right. So remember, unlike a semicolon, you have to have a full sentence on both sides. And so a colon can be followed by just simply a word or a phrase. So therefore, don't capitalize it. All right. So remember, capitalize if it's a complete sentence. Don't capitalize if it's not a complete sentence. It's easy. Example. Although the cartoon series about the Beatles was widely popular in the 1960s, the Beatles hated one thing in particular about it: the voices of the actors. It's a great use of the colon as a way of leading into this explanation, but you'll notice that that's not a full sentence. So therefore, I didn't capitalize the T and the. Rule number 7, you always then have to have a complete sentence in front of the colon. So this is very important when you're taking the SAT. When they give you a colon, you have to make sure it's a full sentence in front of it. Otherwise, that colon's incorrect. It's an automatic, easy answer. So this is probably the most common misuse of the colon. So there are exceptions, like salutations, like you're saying, "Dear Mr. Marsh, colon." Well, it's not a full sentence. However, when you're writing, like a regular writing, a colon always works after a complete sentence. So it's got to be a full sentence first, and then you're allowed to use that colon. So in this sense, it's kind of similar to the semicolon in the fact that it has a full sentence first. Example: the simple yet strikingly moving ballad, Blackbird. Following the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., Paul McCartney wrote this song as a tribute to the strength of Black American women. That's a great sentence, except right in front of that colon, that's not a full sentence. The simple yet strikingly moving ballad, Blackbird. So in order for me to use that colon, I've got to make this into a full sentence. So I could say, Blackbird is a simple yet strikingly moving ballad. That's a full sentence, and therefore I can use that colon. Sweet. Fast rule number 8. Never place a colon after explanatory phrases like, for example, for instance, namely. All right. So once again, you're never going to say, for example, colon, or for instance, colon, or namely, colon. So that's another common misuse, particularly with for example or for instance. People try putting colons afterward. Why would they do that? So they kind of sound like pointer words, but they're actually structured after the colon, not before the colon. All right. So like other transitional phrases, follow these with a comma, but don't follow them with a colon. So here's an example. John Lennon often gave away his more gentle songs in order to preserve his rocker image, for example. The Lullaby Goodnight for his son was sung by Ringo. Well, here's this sentence, which is fine, it's a sentence, but it sounds great until we get to that phrase, for example. And then it sounds a little odd to me. John Lennon often gave away his more gentle songs in order to preserve his rocker image, for example. And then it's like, wait, what? So I'm thinking something's odd here. What if I put that, for example, and use that as a transition and don't put a colon after, for example? Let's put the colon in front of it. So therefore, I use a colon to join those two sentences together. And then because it's a full sentence after the colon, I capitalize that F in for. So now I could say John Lennon often gave away his more gentle songs in order to preserve his rocker image. Colon. Next sentence. For example, the lullaby Good Night for his son was sung by Ringo. Perfect. So just to recap then, the colon may still be quiet and underestimated as a punctuation mark, but hopefully we've unraveled its untapped potential. It's a great punctuation mark to start using more frequently. All right. So there are our punctuation marks. We're slowly making our way through all four of them. We'll get through them all. And if we know those four, the semicolon, the dash, the comma, and the colon, we're going to crush the SAT.